Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. As-salatu was-salamu ala Rasulillah wa ala alihi wa ashabihi wa sallam. Assalamu alaikum and welcome everyone. I suggest keeping your cameras on if you can. That will keep you more engaged, inshallah. And I will share my screen shortly. This is our 11th session, studying Juz 29, doing Zoom for the first time. And hopefully towards the end, I would like to see how many people can actually be regular with the Zoom, or you can even send me an email about it. If there's enough interest and commitment, then we can also keep doing the Zoom sessions going forward. So we expect to have, I think, roughly around 7 more sessions before we break off for Ramadan. So perhaps we can continue doing Zoom as well. Either just do Zooms, or we might be able to do, a combination of Zoom and in person. So we'll see how that goes. So for those of you who may be familiar, please keep yourself on mute if you're not speaking. I'm going to put you on mute right here. And when you need to speak, you can unmute yourself. So for those of you who may not be familiar, what we do is we have actually 3 components of this class. And, especially those who are new, we can work together after the session or some other time to make sure that you are up to date, inshallah. Give me one moment. Okay. Yes. So the 3 components are, one is practice. So we would have a practice time. Either right now we are keeping it at 7:30, but we may potentially do it at 9:30, depending on what people prefer, or we may have both. Right. So this is a time where you can practice with the instructor. We can practice vocabulary. We can discuss vocabulary and things like that. And then the second component, which we are going to start right away, is where we take a few verses and we read them. We look at the translation and we look at reflections and gems from those verses. And then the last component, which is about the Quranic Arabic and grammar. Okay. All right. So let's begin, inshallah. So we are on Surah Al-Haaqqah, verse number, I think 32. Let me just quickly confirm that. Sorry, 38. So we will be doing chapter 69, Surah Al-Haaqqah, verse number 38. And let's find that here. $38. Here you go. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم فلا أقسم بما تبصرون وما لا تبصرون إنه لقول رسول كريم وما هو بقول شاعر قليلا ما تؤمنون ولا بقول كاهن قليلا ما تذكرون تنزيل من رب العالمين. So basically all these verses are talking about the importance of Quran in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes a statement or an oath by everything that we see, that we can comprehend, that we are seeing, and as well as everything that we are not seeing. So the first thing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala introduces the Quran as that this is a statement, a word of a noble messenger, right? So just having these 2 translations up, it usually helps, and we don't have to get into the tafsir from our reflection perspective. And as you can see that the mufassirin, the explainers, have commented that the messenger here could mean Jibreel alayhi salam or Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Both meanings could be applied here. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that, look, this is not a poetry, it's not a kalam, it's not a statement or a kalam of a poet, but you, little is it that you believe. And then same thing about it's not something coming out from kahin, right? And you don't reflect, you don't remember. So the action or the reflection point, and for those of you who are new, we have these suggested questions that we had shared earlier in our main PDF. Right? These could be the questions that you can think about when you're reflecting on the verses. You know, what does it tell me about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Who is it talking about? What kind of people is it talking about? And how do I do in terms of my quality, my relationship with those people? Are these people that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala love my friends, or I do not hang out with them and I have different types of friends? What are the qualities that it is mentioning, the qualities that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala admires, appreciates? How am I doing in terms of those qualities? What is it reminding me to focus on, right? Is there a promise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this verse? Is it teaching me a powerful mindset? And if I were to use these verses and if I were to advise a friend of mine, what would that advice be? So that's the approach that we are taking from a reflection perspective. We're not doing deep academic tafsir. We are not looking into the fiqh aspects of it. We're not deriving the halal, haram rulings of this. So looking at these verses, you know, does anybody wants to take a shot, like, you know, either speak up or put in the chat what comes to your mind when you look at these verses about Quran? So I'm going to go back to the translation. Let's see if you keep this in mind, what comes to your mind. Actually, I'm going to put in the link for this folder as well. So for those of you who may have seen the videos, the links are actually in the video description as well. Well, let me just put it in the Zoom chat as well, especially for the newcomers. Okay, so anybody would like to go first, you can raise your hand, type in the chat. Going once, twice. Okay, that's surprising. All right, let's warm up to it. So my main takeaway here is the importance of Quran. And the reflection point, whether I'm advising someone else or I'm advising myself, is that, look, this is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is emphasizing Quran. And what is my relationship to Quran? How much time do I dedicate to consuming Quran, thinking about Quran, or reading Quran, compared to everything else that I scroll on my social media, on my phone, or other apps? So what is my relationship with Quran? What is the purpose of Quran in my life? What is the influence of Quran in my life? So that will be my key takeaway and my suggestion for us all to think about, right? Is that good enough? Is it same as last year? Going down? Do I need to change that? What should my approach be? Okay, now here, so see, one of the questions in the thing in the slide deck there was, what does it tell me about my Lord? So what is the introduction? What is the attributes used here in verse number 43 about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Rabbul Alameen, right? So who can explain that? What does Rabbul Alameen means? What does it mean, Lord of the universe or Lord of the worlds? So this is something that we have talked about earlier. As a quick reminder, we talked about three things or three attributes that are included in the word Rabb. Anybody recalls that? Okay, I hope that Zoom is not going to become a very uninteractive session. I think it's easier, right? Because Lord of the worlds, okay, everything Allah created. Okay, so that's one, right? Creator, right? So Allah is the creator of everything. So that's one of the components that's included in the word Rabb, that Allah is the creator. What are the two other attributes that's included in the word Rabb? Malik,
the action.
The owner, right? So that's the second one. Who is living Quran? Okay, so let's explain that, right? That look, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one that is the creator, right? So if you look at the phones, if you look at human beings, if you look at the mountains, the skies, the oceans, what have you, Allah is the direct creator, right? There's no doubt about it. There's no difference of opinion there, right? I mean, other than, you know, the weird people, right? People understand that there's a creator, and that creator we call Rabbul Alameen. He actually thought, he designed it, and he created that creation. Then now there are these indirect creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which are like, smartphones or cars or aircrafts and so on and so forth. So we also attribute this to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because he's the one who created all the engineers and the designers, and he's the one who created and bestowed the thoughts and the ideas, the deductions from the scientific experiments that led to the creation of smartphones or smart cars or whatever you admire, right? So this is all attributed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, obviously, and he's the one who created the raw materials and so on and so forth. Now, from a worldly perspective, the ownership changes, right? When you tap your card or you swipe your card, you can buy a phone and the ownership changes. But from our aqidah perspective, the theology perspective, or the reality perspective, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continues to be the owner. And that's one of the things that we have, that this is my body and my hands and my eyes and what have you. But we cannot have this approach of like, okay, it's my life, it's my body, I can do whatever I want with it. No, it is Allah's property. It is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala owns. He has given it to me as a test to see how I will use it and what I will do with it. So the ownership is included in the word or attribute that Allah is the Rabb. And what is the third one? Who can tell me the third one? So we talked about ownership, creatorship, right? Khaliq. And then we have Malik, which is the owner. So Allah is the owner of everything, the Alameen. The last one is provider. Good, right? So provider or sustainer, or I would also say like complete arranger of affairs. Okay, so what that means is that, look, again, back to my phone example, that Allah is a creator, he is the owner, even though the worldly ownership or the legal ownership changes from a worldly perspective. Now, I can buy a car, I can buy a phone, but I do not have complete authority, I do not have complete ownership of that, right? Allah is the one who has it. What does that mean is that the famous hadith that nothing can harm or benefit me or this phone or my car or my job or my spouse or my children, whatever, only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who has complete power over them. That even though some people, a group of people, or by accident, some things may potentially harm me or my property or things that I own from a worldly perspective, nothing can happen to it except if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows that to happen. So understanding and living with this concept of world, refines your perspective, opens your mind, and you definitely live a more powerful life. So that's from a perspective of knowing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Any questions? So always remember this: when you see Rabb, try to translate it, try to make sure that you understand and you appreciate these three attributes that are included in it. Okay, so 44. وَلَوْ تَقَوَّلَ عَلَيْنَا بَعْضَ الْأَقَاوِيلِ لَأَخَذْنَا مِنْهُ بِالْيَمِينِ ثم لقطعنا منه الوتين فما منكم من أحد عنه حاجزين. So 40, the next 4 verses, I think. So these are talking about, had the Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam forged a false saying concerning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we would have seized him by his right hand, right? And we would have severed his aorta, and none of you could have shielded him from us, meaning from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So what is the takeaway, guys, brothers and sisters? What do you think there is? What's the takeaway for us? Again, the way we want to think about it is like, what about me? What about my thinking, my heart, my action? So what can I learn from this? Or what can I advise someone else from this? There's 2 key takeaways for me. I want to see if anybody can chime in before I do. So while I drink water. Okay, it looks like we need more time to warm up on the Zoom.
So we mean on the verses itself, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, on these verses.
Well, my takeaway from it is that, as you were saying, nothing can benefit neither harm except with the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Okay. Good. Yeah, and see, that's the thing. We are not saying that this is the only thing that the ayat means, right? What we are saying is, what does this reminds me of, as long as it is consistent with the general teachings of Islam, right? So that's another thing to remember. Well, we're not saying that this is the only meaning. It's like, okay, what can I walk away from it? Yes, good. So I'm being accounted for all my actions. So most importantly, I think, especially in today's context, and I guess even in the past, being sure, thinking before speaking about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? Because this is a big deal, right? As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is even saying about the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So many times, especially in the whole, social media and whatnot, people just speak, oh, I don't think that Allah will punish me for this. I believe. And this is something that's a big, big, big problem in our time. Okay, especially what happens is, someone gets famous and popular for something. Let's say you're a businessman, you're an entrepreneur or investor or an athlete, right? And now you're being interviewed, or you have the mic, you have the platform, and someone asks you about something. I don't think that Allah will, account us for hijab. It's not as much of a big deal. Or it's okay if, if we can't go to Friday prayers, or it's okay if we take interest and loans like that. Like, talking about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala without authority, without knowledge, crossing your lane, not staying in your lane, all these things are a big fitna of today. So that's something to be really careful about for us all and anybody who is put in that sort of position. The second thing, it also emphasizes that, look, the importance of sunnah, right? It also reminds me of that look, if the messenger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying something, then that's not a trivial thing, because he is speaking on behalf of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So what is the importance of sunnah in my life? How much do I value? How much do I live by it? And so on and so forth. So these would be the two things, two reminders for me. And obviously the third thing, which is from here, فَمَا مِنْكُم مِّنْ أَحَدٍ عَنْهُ حَاجِزٍ. That's also a very powerful thing, which is what our brother mentioned, that to remember that, look, nobody can protect us against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So why do I try to chase the pleasure of people by disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? Whether it be my boss, my employer, my partner, my big client, my major donor, whoever it is, always keeping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as the top priority is a very, very important thing. So if anybody has any comments, let's take that. Otherwise, we'll wrap up our reflection sessions on this. And then what we'll do is we'll get into the grammar and the Quranic Arabic of this, inshallah. Comments, thoughts? Anybody would like to summarize? Maybe summarize, put down your top 3 takeaways in the chat. Yes, right. So Jazakallah khair to Afia for sharing this beautiful hadith. Okay, could anybody, like to maybe put one of, okay, let's see if I can challenge everyone to put one actionable takeaway from this discussion, right? Let's try to see if everyone can put like a one-liner in the chat. Bismillah, let's go. I'm not asking for donation. I want to raise $10,000 unless we won't move forward. Allah's words, okay, nice. See, I would even challenge a bit further, right? Just so that we can, yes, Jazakallah khair, living Quran, spending more time with Quran. So see, that's what I'm looking for, right? We don't want to just have statements like facts. Let's have it in an actionable way, right? Especially targeted with the I, right? I should spend more time with the Quran. I should look at my connection with Quran, right? Because yes, that's a fact, right? Quran is only Allah's word. That's what we saw. But then, okay, how do I turn it into an action either of my body or my heart, or my mindset or my focus, right? So I wanted, let's turn it into an actionable point. All right, living Quran is off the hook. I want everyone to have a one actionable statement. Bismillah, let's go. I'm gonna wait, inshallah. One action point for everyone. Okay, good. All right, now let's see if we can have something else. Use the dunya to prepare for the akhirah. Good. Start one new sunnah tonight. Practicing for that we learn. Practicing for what we learn. Okay, good. I need to spend more time. This one, the Quran. Right? Good. So how many do we have? 4, 5. And how many people do we have? All right. Let's have 2 more and then we'll wrap up. 2 more from 2 new people. Actually, I think everybody has commented. Rahil, what do you have? Putting Rahil on the spot, our regular person. Only believe in Allah. All right, beautiful. So, okay, so with that, we conclude our session on the reflection. I'm also going to stop the recording so it makes it easier to upload.